a woman for me is handling your own, but knowing how to cater to a man's needs, right? And I think a lot of times when you get that aesthetic of like, I'm a boss bitch, like I'm a this, I'm a that. No, baby, like, but you can't cook.
Okay.
You don't know when to be quiet. You don't know how to allow a man to lead.
Now, a lot of women, now the kickback of that.
In the morning, you got me up all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say, we gon' be okay, we just gotta boom bada boom ba. I don't wanna fight, you know that I'm right. Baby, let me talk to your body. We gon' be okay, hear me when I say. Remember those days, those L's, I couldn't sleep right now. I get paid, vacay, I'm staying B-side. Breaking the blues over steak, I gotta eat right. You could be my peace sign. I don't need that energy around me. I just need sun, you're so cloudy. I wake up good, you're so grouchy. Please get from around me. When the truth don't work, you start telling lies. Thought you were down to ride, you weren't down to ride. Caught switching, you were picking sides. Don't blink, caught slipping like a slip and slide. I was shooting dice till I got a nosebleed. Money on the floor, can't get cold feet. Took an L, should've put it in the offering. Lord, forgive me for my sins, don't know of me. Scary thoughts, I got scary thoughts. Lost control, now I'm taking charge. Breaking bills, friends breaking off. You could be the youngest, I'm the dawn. Kiss the ring, nah. In the scene like G.O.T. Stay awake, don't sleep. Like Jon Snow, get R.I.P. Remember those days, those L's, I couldn't sleep right now. I get paid, vacay, I'm staying B-side. Breaking the blues over steak, I gotta eat right. You could be my peace sign. I don't need that energy around me. I just need sun, you're so cloudy. I wake up good, you're so grouchy. Please get from around me. Just me, myself, and I'm my favorite threesome. The cars I drive by, I never lease them. They say if you can't beat them, then you join them. That's no option, I don't join, I always beat them. I was fake, you had to find me. Now I'm on beat, skating like I'm grinding. L hit me, said it's all about the timing. If you want the vision, get to spinning. My mama told me trust in God, it's never limits. Now I'm on the scoreboard, running up the digits. I put in work, you know I'm up to get it. Early bird gets the worm and the Yankee fitted. Like, whoa, bags under my eyes and you know. Won't complain, I'm tired, I'm on go. For that grip, 10 toes till they swole. For that grip, 10 toes till they swole. Remember those days, those L's, I couldn't sleep right now. I get paid, vacay, I'm staying B-side. Breaking the blues over steak, I gotta eat right. You could be my peace sign. I don't need that energy around me. I just need sun, you're so cloudy. I wake up good, you're so grouchy. Please get from around me. I was starving, now I'm eating till my belly full. From up north, we get cold, you need a heavy coat. Scared to end up on a shirt before a centerfold. Devil on my back, target on me, belly too. Play the keys, don't tweet. It's not peace, don't speak. 24, no sleep. This is real, no tweet. My bros for life, can't break this link. Family on my side, baby stay around me. I don't want no combo, I want checks. I don't want the second, I want this. I'm all in my head, swear I'm a wreck. I've been moving like a hot mess. I don't want no combo, I want checks. I don't want the second, I want this. I'm all in my head, swear I'm a wreck. I've been moving like a hot mess. Want that combo, better know you'll need a check from me. Can pay to play, the sun that still won't get a cent from me. I mix the fit up with the sound like it's a remedy. I mix it up inside the pot, watch it drip while it drop. Time to take it to the top. Chips all in the middle like it fall, no I won't flop. We gon' pop, pop, like a soda can top. To me this is nothing, call my bluff and I won't stop when I flex. I don't want no combo, I want checks. I want the checks, yeah. I don't want the second, I want best. I want best, yeah. By any means, that's a triple threat. A triple threat. That S is getting bigger, I might flex. I don't want no combo, I want checks. I don't want the second, I want best. I'm all in my head, swear I'm a wreck. I've been moving like a hot mess. I don't want no combo, I want checks. I don't want the second, I want best. I'm all in my head, swear I'm a wreck. I've been moving like a hot mess. I hit record a drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finished friends on my face. Looking like I'm from the deep, these no Cartiers. Pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a beat, bro. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip. Neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no crib. Neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick. Neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the deal. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, you don't no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it. Been the one since a fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a bald head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. I press the button and the doors go off like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. They know, they know, they know, they know, they know, they know, yeah, they know, 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 yeah, they know. Tunnel vision when I hit the holly. Working on that cause my mind is on an island. Told my babies I'll be homeless, so don't stay up. Breaks my heart to see them sad, so I won't wait up. Need it all that's mine, I need it now. I lost my patience the same week I lost my smile. My baby pressed me, said I'm acting like a child. I took some L's, can lie, that really brought me down. I'm so antisocial, but I guess it's type selective. Swear I'll make a change, but for now I just can't help it. Only trusting God in these scars that I've been dealt with. I'ma do my job, time to grind, time to know. They know, they know, they know, they know, they know, yeah, they know, 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 yeah, they know. Pedal to the metal, they know. Going and I won't let up, they know. I'm not so fed up, they know. Stay for the record, they know. They know, they know, they know, yeah, they know. Pedal to the metal, they know. I'm not so fed up, they know. Why you never sign? You sign when you go live. Stuck inside that bubble, never ever go outside. You don't know you know computers, you're a tech guy. Back against a wall, you gon' fall or you gon' ride. I feel the pressure, foot to the pedal. My dogs, they fed up, my squad won't let up. Those sneakers CDG, hot on step on. My money yoga, the weight is stretch on. I change locations to change the weather. Know when that rain come, got my umbrella. And when my day come, my name gon' stay up. Yeah, I know. Pedal to the metal, they know. Gonna don't let up, they know. I'm not so fed up, they know. Say it for the record, they know. Yeah, they know. Pedal to the metal, they know. I'm not so fed up, they know.
A woman for me is handling your own, but knowing how to cater to a man's needs, right? And I think a lot of times when you get that aesthetic of like, I'm a boss bitch, like I'm a this, I'm a that. No, baby, like, but you can't cook.
Okay.
You don't know when to be quiet. You don't know how to allow a man to lead.
Now, a lot of women, now the kickback of that.
All right, guys. If you guys can hear me, hit one. Hit one, guys, if you can hear me. Hold tight. Give me 1 minute. Let me get this thing together. Y'all hit one if you can hear me. Guys, hit one if you can hear me. We're about to start in a minute. I'm just getting all these technicalities on point. And we're going to have a conversation, guys. Won't be before you long because I got to get to the office. But I think this conversation is worth talking about. And this conversation, guys, is worth talking about because it's all tied to what many young men are talking about, and many young men are bellowing in a time when they're looking for traditional women and also traditional relationships. You see, guys, something happens is very precarious when boys don't have the balance of a masculine man, but also a woman that honors and respects them. And see, here's the great conniption and the great caveat. We still expect men to be traditional in times when many women are saying that they are modern. We still expect men to be, the bullet bags. We expect men to be providers for the most part. We expect men to do man work. But when it comes down to a man like Cam Newton that was raised in a traditional family, he was raised under a traditional umbrella and also raised under a patriarchal system, then when Cam Newton began to speak his sentiment, guys, it's always met on deaf ears, or it's always seen as misogynistic, or it's always seen as wrong. And see, that's what happens when men grow up in families where they don't have strong masculine men. I believe that Shaq Oneal is living vicariously through the trauma of his mother. I think he's living through the pain of his mother because Shaq, for so many years, was not raised by his biological father. He was raised by a military man. And see, guys, that's what happens. I call it gravy train simping. And see, men of the past thought that the women of modern times would be like their mothers and their grandmothers. And back in the day, some men would marry women with children, and it was seen as an honorable thing. But here's the caveat to that. We live in a time now when that's not always honorable. There are some decent women that more or less espouse that, but in general, we live in times now where that's not always an honorable deed to do for men because it does not benefit men. In these modern times, when marriage rates precipitously dropping, and I don't necessarily agree with modern marriage in these modern times because I feel that the remnant is not more or less available to the percentage of men that want traditional wives. Is there a remnant of decent women? Yes. But are many wife worthy or wife ready for a man to give his time, energy, and resources? No. Many don't understand how to respond and or respect men and give men what they want. So the question remains, and the question is posed, what is a man getting in these modern times when he gives his best to a woman that has not been conditioned to honor and serve him and to respect him to the point that they can raise and build a vibrant community? Now watch this. I'm going to say it again. In theory, I think marriage in the ideal world is a good scenario. But in these current times, in these modern times, because there is a remnant, it really doesn't benefit serious intentional men because it's harder to find. Unless that man put in prescriptive guidelines. And what I mean by prescriptive guidelines, prenups, she's wife-worthy, wife-ready, haven't had a lot of fun, and she grew up in a family where they reinforce the mores of that man, then perhaps. But the culture is so decadent, and anytime a man begins to speak out and say what he wants, it's seen as misogynistic. But here's the caveat to that. When some of our women say, I want a man that's a provider, protector, he gives security, he's tall, he's XYZ, then it's no issue. But anytime men begin to bellow what they want, there's a condition called the minimization of male needs and the magnification of the modern woman. And that leads to a thinking era called modernized mania. That modernized mania is tied to thinking eras where men don't see the benefit in themselves or where men don't respect themselves. And therefore, hence, they get caught up in scenarios and situations when they allow themselves to be disrespected, more or less. Now, listen, we're going to read through some of these comments too. Guys, share the content. Shout out to my dear friend, Luke Kaiser. Thank you, dear. She said the sound is perfect. Thank you for everyone that's listening. I will not be before you long. We got a good show on tomorrow. And hopefully I have my esteemed guest, Edward Anderson, on the show. And, we're not necessarily talking about marriage per se, because I'm not here to promote marriage per se. I'm talking about the ideal of partner versus wife, and are there issues with that? But anyway, shout out to Luke Kaiser for that $10 super sticker. And that is a deal, right? And I appreciate it, dear, for your kindness, for you supporting the channel, and also for the work that you do in these spaces as we seek to form a more better union. But back to point. We talk about traditional families and the importance of traditional families. And, there was a content creator that did a show yesterday, and he was talking about that Jeff Bezos is actually, and a lot of men are actually beginning to date and marry Latin women. And they're beginning to marry and date Latin women because Latin women have more or less been conditioned to honor and respect tradition, but also to honor and respect their men. Unlike here in America, where women aren't taught or trained to honor and respect their men. And I stand firm in what I say. It does not benefit most modern young men to give their life and time to the average modern woman. Are there outliers? Yes. If a man want to take a chance on outliers, then so be it. But in general, many men and many young men are saying that the juice is not worth the squeeze. And they're saying that because anytime you ask or make standards and make expectations on them, anytime you say it, they say it's misogynistic. These are not the 50s. And we're going to see the goofy sentiment of Shaquille Oneal. And I respect Shaq. But once again, Shaq is a byproduct of gynocentric thought. Shaq is a byproduct of a home where he probably, in his initial stages, in his formative years, he didn't see a masculine man in the home. Some will argue that, he had a stepdad simp, that came in and rescued him after his original father, didn't do what he needed to do. And once again, guys, that was an honorable thing to do back in the past. But a lot of men are saying it's no benefit to do it now. And when you think about traditional families, when you think about traditional relationships, when you think about how traditionalism is important to fortifying the psyche of a man, when men say what they need and what they want and they can't get it, then that leaves that man in a state of mental despair. It leaves that man in a state of mental distress. It leaves that man in a state of perplexity because he's not getting the needs and the things that he wants long term. So guys, share this content as I'm going to drop some fire for your mind. And as I said earlier, I'm not going to be before you long because I got to get to the office. But I just want to talk about this topic. This topic has been on my mind. And, in the past, Shaq used to talk about something called Shaq Fu. And so it appears that Shaq did a Shaq Fu on masculinity, and he used Shaq Fu to protect gynocentric thought, but also a gynocentric ideology where we live in times where anything men say they want is always held under scrutiny. So I'm going to show you guys Going to show you guys the information I got. And you're right, Luke Hazley. Kanye West did take a chance on marrying an outlier, and he's paying for it now. Yes, ma'am. I agree with you 1,000,000%. And that's the issue that a lot of men are saying. What is the benefit? And many are saying there is no benefit because many have not been raised in homes where they respect and understand masculinity. And that's what happened to Shaquille Oneal. That's what's happened to a lot of men. Many men in modern times and modern relationships have never seen masculinity. They've never seen masculine men. They've never seen fathers love their wives, but also check their wives when they're wrong. I'm going to say it again. They've lived in times where they've never seen their fathers love their wives and protect their women, but also check their women. A lot of men in the past let their wives run the home. A lot of those men go home and shut up and be quiet because they're scared. They said, mama knows best. Happy wife, happy life, which in essence is not healthy for a man. In a relationship, he benefits. In a relationship, you benefit. But in a relationship where it's segue, or a relationship is more or less mired under always trauma blaming, that is not beneficial for that man or that woman. I believe in equality of thought and equality of power as it relates to men being men. I believe the men should be the lovers and the brokers in their relationships if they believe in marriage. But I do not begrudge a young man or any man, young, old, or middle age, that says in these modern times, I don't see the benefit of giving my money, time, resources to modern women. I don't blame men at all. So am I an advocate once again for modern marriages in modern times? No, because until the laws change, it's no benefit. If you can find a quality woman and you can more or less broker outcomes that can benefit you and her in this current world system, that's what you want to do, kudos to you. But by and large, it does not benefit men. There are no real true advantages unless she's been trained right, unless she's been raised to honor and respect her husband. And many times those women that strive to do the right thing, they get called pick-me's and they get called mammies and all kinds of derogatory terms, which in essence keeps this negative cycle going on and on and on and to no resolve. Some would say that when Shaq fooled masculinity, but also exonerated and protected the black matriarchy, some were saying that it's a byproduct of his socialization. A man can be masculine to other men, but he can be a simp when it comes down to his women or his woman or women. I'm going to say it again. A man can be masculine when it comes down to other men, but he can be a simp or have simp tendencies when it comes down to his woman or women. The unconscious simp, supplementing irrational male patterns. That's the unconscious simp, supplementing irrational male patterns. That's your unconscious simp. And a lot of men that are walking around there are unconscious simps. And anytime men begin to speak up or come together, you have the hyena brigade. Yes, you have the hyena brigade trying to silence those men and keep those men quiet as it relates to trying to form a more better union as it relates to men, masculinity, and being the brokers, protectors, and providers in their homes. To the point, as I said earlier, there's a large percentage of men that are beginning to look for Latin women, Afro-Latin women, or Latin women in general, because those women, not because they're perfect women, and not because they don't have their issues, but also South African women, because those women are just raised better. When a man is on his purpose, he does not have time to be arguing, debating, trying to explain, and defend. Just like some women say, I don't want a woman, I got to teach how to be a man. Men are saying, I don't want a woman, I got to teach how to be a woman. You come in knowing what your role is. We work together as a team. I will love you, protect you, take care of you. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be the man in the relationship. You're going to follow my lead. I'm going to protect you. I'll die for you if I have to, but it's going to damn come with a price. And that's what men are saying now, these modern times, where they feel like that kind of woman is slim to none. And so many men, guys, you broker your power away. And see, what we don't understand, guys, this is not, as I said earlier, it's not a black woman issue. It's an American Western issue. Gonna say it again, it's not a black woman issue. It's an American woman and a Western issue, an issue that many times they got from European women. Our women learned some of this backwards thinking from European women because there was always this sublime jealousy of white women. And they always felt that black men oppressed them, where black men never had power to oppress. We were all broken under the tyranny of Jim Crow racism, but also under the tyranny of oppressive governments and oppressive systems. But now we live in a time when that oppression is on a continuum, and men are saying, you know what, enough is enough. But enough of that. I want to read the comments, guys. And shout out to Top Gun for that $5 super sticker. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you, Top Gun, for that $5 super sticker. Lavelle Robinson, masculinity has nothing to do with women. Women can be masculine. Roles are changed based on the needs of the individuals in the relationship. That's interesting. I'll have you guys come up in a minute. We'll talk about it. But in the meantime, let's read this stuff about Shaq, guys. And I want you guys to tell me what you think about it in a few minutes. But it says that Shaquille Oneal sounds off on Cam Newton say women should learn to cook and let the man take the lead. Now, if you are a traditionalist, you would say there's nothing wrong with that. Because a woman would tell a man many times that I don't want a broke man. I don't want a bum. You should man up and take care of kids that you didn't produce, kids that she had with other men that tell you need to man up. These are the same women, guys, that will tell you, that you're broke, you're inadequate. They would say disparaging words about you, your sexuality. You're part of the alphabet community. You're not tall enough. They'll say all types of disparaging comments, but let you say, I want a woman that can cook. This based on traditionalism, because a man can't be about his purpose if he's home constantly cooking. To the women that say, I'm not a slave, well, guess what? He's not a slave either, because if a man got to work, if he got to provide, if he got to protect, if he got to cut grass, if he got to change oil, if he got to get the cars fixed, if he got to wash the cars, if he got to kill the rats, if he got to pay for the maintenance or do the maintenance or fix the cars and do all of that while trying to be a professional man, does not that make him a slave too? And, that kind of thinking, guys, are thinking errors. The minimization of the man's role and the magnification of her role. And so marriage is about service, where both serve one another. But I do not begrudge any young man or woman in this day and time when they're saying, I don't want to get married. Don't see the benefit of it. I don't begrudge them, and I understand it. And, even though I think there's a quotient of men that would love to have a wife and build a family and a community and a legacy, they're just saying when you hear these foolish comments by Shaq, which appears to be a very masculine man, it sounds very distasteful. So let's read it. Shaquille Oneal has always been opinionated, and almost all the time we see him on the right side of things. He's one of the most influential sports personalities in the world, and he acts that way. Even if Shaq posts random hilarious thing on the social media, he knows his fans will look at things. I want to ask you guys a question. Based on Shaq's comments and attack on Cam Newton, is Shaq considered a simp in your opinion? I'm going to read you some of this again. Shaq is a big philanthropist, which explains the trait of understanding and knowing what people want. There are many donations and charity works by Shaq. Shaq has always given back to the community and society that has given him so much. He's a big man with an even bigger heart. Fair enough. But apart from the donations and philanthropy work, Shaq has always voiced his opinion on things that matter. He's aware of the things that happen around the world, and when he takes a stand, it's usually a strong one. The big podcast with Shaq has given us such moments where Shaq has his own views on something that has stuck by him. Shaq, on a recent podcast, and see, guys, this is what happened anytime men speak out. But Shaq, on one of his recent podcasts, discussed the statement American quarterback Cam Newton made about women. Cam Newton talked about women who claimed themselves to be boss bees, whatever he meant by this statement. His remarks were backwards, to say the least. And see, this is what people like Shaq do and most folks in the media. They don't hear the context of everything the man said. They take it and run with it. And what what Cam was basically trying to say is this, that the true essence and the true virtue of being a woman is the fact that you're not walking around here bellowing the sentiment of being a boss bee. But the true virtues of a woman is this: a woman that's honorable, knows when to use discipline, a woman that knows when to speak and honor her man, but also a time to be quiet for the sake of peace and the unity of the relationship. A woman that has nurturing skills like cooking, like his mother and his grandmother. But see, that's why I keep telling you guys, you got goofballs like Shaq saying, Cam Newton was backwards, his statements were backwards, and we're living in different times. Well, fine. If we're living in different times, then don't expect a man to, go downstairs and, when the criminal break in, you take your chance and do it too. We're living in different times. Men and women are equal. Just do the same thing. I'm going to equally let you go downstairs and defend the house if have to. I'm going to equally let you pump that gas while we're at the gas station while I sit back and sit on my phone. I'm going to equally let you change the oil. I'm going to equally let you fix a tire. The times are no longer like they were in the past. These are the modern times. And I need you to step up because men and women can do the same thing. But see, that's the cognitive distortions that many have and the thinking errors that many have. It's okay for him to adhere to traditional norms, but it's not okay for her. And shout out to the good women that still strive to be traditional in a time when the world was shaming those women for being traditional. But Shaq, in my opinion, guys, is definitely exhibiting some symptomatic behavior. And it's unfortunate, guys, because a lot of men are saying enough is enough. A lot of men are saying enough is enough. And this is what Shaq said. Shaq said this: times have changed and women are demanding their respect and you must give it to them. This ain't the 60s or 70s. Be quiet, do all this. You got women buying mansions and living in them and getting new mansions. You got women that are doing their own thing. And guess what? Many of those women are lonely, Shaq. Many of those women are miserable, Shaq. Many of those women wish they had a strong man to be in that mansion with them, Shaq. But masculine men are not going to participate with women that more or less think that they're going to control them and damn disrespect them. But once again, Shaq was raised by a single mother. Shaq lived through the vicarious trauma of his mother. Therefore, hence, Shaq is projecting the pain of his mother because that's what he saw his mom do. And this is what happens. Men that are raised by single moms don't give a damn how big you are, how masculine you are in the presence. Many times they are unconscious simps. They don't even know they're unconscious simps. And what they do anytime men stand on masculine principles, because those men sometimes have a hatred to those fathers because of what they heard their mother say, they project their anger on any demand or any concern that men say about malehood and masculinity. So you got men like Shaq, and once again, I like Shaq, but Shaq, you stepping hard, dog. They go around and say goofy stuff like that, and say stuff like, the times have changed. But then, have the times changed, Shaq, for women? Have the times changed for men? So should men be expected to do things from the 70s and the 60s, like plowing the field and getting out on tractors and farming and taking care of dogs and building houses? It always appears that when it comes down to traditions and more or less the roles of men, our roles must remain the same, even in modern times. But when it comes down to our women, because of course the women are the victims, then it's not an issue. And see, that's separate. And I love Shaq, but Shaq, that's some simp-ish. He said, be quiet, do all of this. You got women that are doing their own thing. You got to show them their respect. And a true king doesn't have to go to a woman and say, I'm the boss. They should already know, you should already know, a true king lets his woman lead. Wrong, Shaq. A true king does not let his woman lead, goofball. But what a true man does do, he delegates responsibilities to his wife. A true king delegates responsibility to his woman if you believe in traditional relationships. Going to do a show tomorrow talking about that. And I'm not more or less espousing marriage. But in a traditional heteronormative relationship, that man is the leader of that family. He is the broker of power in that relationship. he delegates certain leadership qualities and responsibilities to his woman or his wife. But by and large, he is the final orator. He is the final say in that relationship. He determines whether or not how the sheep sinks or swims. But see, guys, in these modern times, they espouse something called egalitarian relationships. And the show that I'm going to do tomorrow is going to be talking about this foolish concept of the lack of submission, while some come into relationships talking and or thinking about a partner. Now, there are some women that use the word partner interchangeably. And they say partner, they're saying, you know, that's my friend. But many times they don't even know what they're talking about. And even though some are very innocent in what they're saying, partners come from egalitarian relationships as it's a liberal or neoliberal construct. I never heard of a partner when I was in college until I got to grad school. And so partner basically says that she make rules and he make rules, not the divine order, God, Christ, man, woman, and children, where she defers to the authority of her husband. She defers to his leadership, and he delegates responsibility under his leadership. But see, Shaq got it wrong because Shaq was raised by a single mom. And sadly, Shaq probably, you know, even though his stepdad probably was a good man, his mom probably was the dominant one in that relationship. And it happens all the time. Instead of men thinking like men under masculine leadership and masculine authority, they think like hyena simps. And, you know, it happens on and on, guys, because, you know, it's negative socialization. It's negative socialization. And you guys have seen it off and on from time to time in situations like this, you know, where men like, you know, big and masculine men, they attack you or they will more or less delete your life. But when it comes down to their mama, they won't check their mom. They won't even check the women in the relationship, but they'll fight you or destroy you physically or kill you or delete you because Shaq is big enough. He's a big man. But when it comes down to a woman, they'll bow and tap dance to a woman because they were raised under gynocentric thought. They were raised under matriarchal thinking. They were raised under negative socialization where they never saw masculinity. They never saw their mother defer to their father. They always saw the mother being the leader in the relationship. And that's the dumbest thing in the world, what Shaq is saying about letting your woman lead. A king lets his woman lead. No, he doesn't. And even if it looks like she's leading, it's always under his jurisprudence. It's always under his guidance. It's always under his delegation. I'm not saying a woman cannot have delegation under certain mandates of her king or her husband, even though I don't really believe in that foolish king and queen. But if you want to use it just for the sake of exoneration, at the end of the day, the man says, okay, baby, you're strong in this area, so I'm going to delegate you and let you take over this this part of the relationship for the sake of the family. But at the end of the day, that man is the chief executive of the relationship. He's the CEO, and she is the broker of the relationship. But that man is the CEO of his family. But see, so many men come into relationships deferring power. They don't demand anything because they've never seen power. They're caught up in gynocentric thought. Some of you men don't even know what it's like to feel like a man. There was a song back in the past called "You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman" by Aretha Franklin. Well, how many times have you men felt like natural men? Most of you men don't know what it's like to feel like a natural man because you've never been around a true feminine woman that was conditioned to honor, love, and serve you. That's why you men lose your mind when you travel abroad or go overseas and a woman gives you a nice hot meal. Because you're not used to it. You're not used to it. You don't know what it looks like. And when you get it, you lose your mind because you've been so browbeaten and downtrodden for years that your development has been arrested as it relates to your masculinity. And so when you listen to a fool like Shaq, you know, you'll be like a lot of men in relationships, broken and browbeaten. Because in the lens of theology, it said the man would rule over her. It doesn't mean that he would more or less treat her like a slave or nothing like that. It just means he's going to guide her moving forward because of the curse. But see, people don't want to talk about that, guys. And that's why I said there's so much brokenness in this society and the rules are so damaging as it relates to men. There are no benefits for a man to give his best to most typical modern women because anytime a man tries to exert any vestige of masculinity, it's going to always be held under contempt. It's going to always be held under scrutiny. And anytime a man begins to project or more or less try to ask and demand what he wants as a man, is always going to be under the microscope of shame, using catch-all phrases like misogyny. But on the flip side, what she's doing is totally misandric. So once again, his needs doesn't matter. Her needs always matter. And when you listen to men like Shaq, you'll end up divorced, and you'll end up, with your development arrested and your masculinity being taken. All right, so hold tight. And so that's it, guys. He said, this is what Shaq also said. This is what Cam said earlier. Cam said, I think a lot of times when you get the aesthetics of I'm a boss B, it's like you can't cook. You don't know how to be quiet. You don't know how to allow a man to lead. And that's what masculinity looks like. Masculine men want to be men in their relationship. Part of being a man is the ability to lead and to make decisions. Part of being a feminine woman is to more or less allow that man to lead. And there are some women that say that, I'm feminine to the right man. Well, no, if you're truly feminine, even that man is not masculine, doesn't have leadership qualities, you still remain feminine and you lead that relationship, meaning if you're just dating. But a true masculine man does not more or less posits or practices traditional masculinity, no more than a true feminine woman practices conditional femininity. It's just who you are. Whether things are good or bad, you're just going to be a feminine woman. And as I said, guys, earlier, that's the part of matriarchal thinking, and that's part of the matriarchal mindset. Cam said things which would not be acceptable in today's world. Shaq is absolutely right, because even when unfortunate women had to face such plights in decades ago, it was not fair. Now things are better, and they should only get better in the future for all genders. But where are the men getting better? That's the question. When are men getting better? When have men gotten better? And many will argue that many men have not gotten better. They have not gotten better at all. And because men have not gotten better at all, men are beginning to evolve. Men are beginning to see the world for what it is. Men are beginning to say, you know what? Let me focus on myself more. Let me begin to love myself more. Let me work out more. Let me stack my money up more. Let me travel more. Let me see the world from a different perspective. Because as I told you, dear gents, there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized. And world travel is one of those 7 steps to help a man get the outcomes that he needs to be successful in these modern times. And I don't blame men for taking that and doing what's best for them. Luke Cage said that there's nothing absolutely wrong with accepting traditional roles. I'm happily managing the home, which includes cooking and cleaning for the leader of the house. No doubt, sweetie. Thank you, Luke Cage. We need more sisters like you. But sadly, women like you are far and few in between. But guys, if you are single, there are women in Venezuela, there are women in Colombia, and there are women in Brazil and also in South Africa and African countries that exude the traditional virtues that you want, sadly, because it's hard to find it here. Are there some good sisters here in America? Yes. Are they hard to find? In my opinion, I think they're very hard to find. I'm talking about a true traditional woman. It's hard to find because even in modern times, men are still expected to be traditional. And I agree with you, Chevelle. Shaq is wrong. Byron Hammer TV, he said all the hyenas are behind Shaq. He tells them what they want to hear. I totally agree. Shout out to my man Doberman. He said buying mansions to live alone, that's dysfunctional. I totally agree, brother. Thank you for that for that $2 super sticker. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Shout out to our man supporting men. Thank you, brother. He said this and this is a deal, right? Thank you, sir, to a man supporting men. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you, brother, to a man supporting men. And he said this, most women say they're going to be like Ruth and one of Boaz. Ruth was young, beautiful, friendly, responsible, humble, and very affectionate. Most women aren't Ruth. Yes, they're not. And they're not trying to be like Ruth because they have believed the lie that they are victims, and they believe the lie that they were oppressed. They believe the lie that you hurt them and you damaged them and you did negative things to them. And guys, because of that, many guys are just beginning to wake up and see things for what it is, because they don't see any benefit in modern times, in modern relationships, and thus forth. Guys, I want you to hit 1 if you feel that Shaq is a byproduct of matriarchal thinking. I want you to hit 2 if you believe Shaq defended the granocracy and used Shaq Fu on Cam Newton. And I will argue that he did use Shaq Fu on Cam Newton. And it's unfortunate, guys. It's very much unfortunate because, as I said earlier, relationships are give and take. Relationships are give and take where he benefits and also where she benefits. That's a true relationship where the man benefits and the woman benefits. But sadly, a lot of men are saying they're not benefiting in modern times and also in modern relationships. Also, guys, Shaq talked about a woman by the name of, let's talk about Shaq and this lady named Lucille Harris, I believe. Lucy Harris, hold tight. We're going to read a little bit of this in a minute too, guys. And you're going to see how Shaq is probably living through vicarious trauma, and also how Shaq, because he didn't have a father 2 years later, probably exonerate womanhood or womanhood over masculinity due to the man that treated him wrong or left him. Some of these men have hatred towards their fathers based on the trauma of their mothers. Some of these men have a hatred towards men or all men because of what their mother's been through. And what it does, it teaches them to want, like I said, once again, hate anything that's masculine because they've never seen a masculinity. So Shaquille Oneal, on his emotional reaction to Oscar contending Doc, the queen of basketball, he said, kind of made me cry. All right, so as you guys know, Shaq is probably the best center ever in the NBA. I respect the man for his profession, his ability to command presence on the basketball court. But there are a lot of rich people, guys, that are broken. Just because you're rich and have money does not mean that you're not broken as a person. Sometimes that brokenness, they are not even aware of it. But anyway, let's go back to point. Then I'm going to drop the link, guys. We're going to talk for a few minutes, then I got to go. He said that basketball legend Shaquille O'Neal wants the world to know about an overlooked star of the game, Lucy Harris, the woman Shaq calls the greatest of all time. She's a power center. I'm a power center. She was dominant, O'Neal tells Deadline about Harris. For a long time, she was denied the limelight, denied the sponsorships, and denied the recognition she deserved. This woman was a woman's basketball player, and I think she was accepted into the NBA for a short stint. The Oscar contending short documentary, The Queen of Basketball, directed by Oscar-nominated Ben Proudfoot, rescues Harris from an unjust obscurity. She won 3 straight national titles at tiny Delta State in the 1970s and earned a silver medal, and in 1977 became the first woman to officially be drafted by an NBA basketball team, the New Orleans Jazz. But she made her era when women's basketball and sports in general didn't draw much attention. This is the woman right here, guys, Lucy Harris. Shaq says, hold tight. Shaq says he did not know about Harris until he watched The Queen of Basketball on the New York Times website. He said, kind of made me cry. I admits. I don't usually cry at movies, but I said to myself, I got to do whatever it takes to bring this story to the world. O'Neal signed on as the executive producer of the short and has been leveraging his social media to publicize the film. On Sunday, he tweeted, "Behold the Queen of Basketball, Lucy Harris. Don't sleep on this film now." A day earlier, he tweeted another link to the film, urging his 15 million plus followers, "Help me blow this up for the greatest of all time." Harris' story resonated with the 4-time NBA champion for personal reasons. "I have 3 daughters," he noted. "This is the kind of story that he wants them to see." And I don't have a problem with that. But once again, we always talk about the exoneration of our girls. Don't have a problem with that. I have 3 girls. But who's exonerating these young boys and men? Because it's always under the umbrella. It's always under the bracket. When we overgeneralize all men, we more or less transfer our pain and hurt to all men, especially men of ethnic African heritage. And we tend to equivocate or more or less juxtapose and presume and assume that all men played a role in the destruction and the hurt and the pain of our women. And what that does, it on a very subtle level, what it does, anything tied to masculinity and manhood is always erased and eradicated. You got boys right now that are 20, 25, 30 years old, and they had nothing to do with the laws of the 70s and the 60s. They don't even know what happened back then, but they're being blamed for what happened years ago, and they had nothing to do with it. And that's a thinking error called overgeneralization. Because, you know, when you do that, and sometimes men do it too, but we're talking about women for this point. When you do that, it causes a lot of men to suffer unneedlessly, and it causes a lot of what's called displaced aggression. And displaced aggression, once again, guys, is the aggression that's tied to a target or an object that was not meant to be tied to that target and or that object. It happens all the time. And so once again, men become the brunt of the pathology. Men become the brunt of the issue. Men become the brunt of the pain associated with what's going on. And it's unfortunate. He said, Lucy, you better go to bed. You got shot. You got school in the morning. She remembered her mother saying, yeah, okay, all right. And so Harris, once again, is from, I think she's from Louisiana. And she recalls class taunting her, calling her long and tall. And Oneal, who would grow to be 7'1" and do the same treatment as a kid. So anyway, more or less, the NBA, the WNBA was not launched until Harris' days were done. She declined the opportunity to try for the New Orleans Jazz after they drafted her in the 7th round, focusing on her raising her family. She and her husband, George Stewart, have 4 children. One is a lawyer, another has a master's degree, and the other 2 earned PhDs. Herself earned a master's in school and coached girls' basketball team in small Mississippi, where she grew up. And I admire this woman. Don't have an issue with this woman. And so Shaq said he admires her presence, and he demonstrated overcoming obstacles in the part of women and African Americans. But once again, I think Shaq, guys, is living vicariously through the trauma of his mother. A lot of men are living vicariously through the trauma of their mothers. And anything masculine or anything that's more or less presumed to be masculine is met under the ire of scrutiny. Now, what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to drop the link and shout out to my man Doberman for that $2 super sticker. He said, black men, it's okay to be masculine. He said he cried. Yeah, that's funny, man. Shout out to my man, Awesome Dre. I haven't seen you in a minute, brother. How you doing, Awesome Dre? He said, KC, exactly what we should not listen to, celebrities and entertainers. I said it multiple times on my channel. These dudes are weak, most of them. I totally agree, brother. I agree with you, Awesome Dre. I agree with you 1,000%. So, guys, listen, I'm not going to be before you long, but I do want to hear from you guys. So I'm going to drop the link. And once again, what do you guys think about this foolishness about Shaq attacking Cam Newton? What do you guys think about it? I'm going to drop the link for call in. I want you men to come in and share your comments. I want you men to share your comments because your comments matter and what you say matter. And also, we want to more or less look at the evidence because it's called collaborative empiricism, where we explore the evidence. And the evidence is saying that there is an attack on heteronormative masculinity. There is an attack where men, when men strive or try to speak out, they're always held under scrutiny. They're always held under the microscope. So I want to hear you men's point of view. I want to hear you men's perspective about what's going on. Did Shaq fool masculinity? Did Shaq defend the gynocracy? Was Shaq wrong, guys, in his pronouncements and more or less his vitriol towards Cam Newton? Or was it more or less just? I would say that Cam Newton was right in what he said. It's not wrong with what Cam Newton said if you believe in traditional relationships. Now, if you believe in modern egalitarian relationships, of course, it was offensive. But Cam is a byproduct of growing up in a traditional home with a traditional father and a traditional mother where he saw his father lead his home. Shaq did not grow up in a traditional family with a traditional father. Shaq then found out who his father was 2 years later. And, you know, I could argue that Shaq's mom probably ran that relationship on up to his stepdad came in. And once again, a lot of these boys are living vicariously the trauma and the pain of their mothers. We think our girls live through vicarious trauma. A lot of these men live through vicarious trauma. And some of you men that grew up in single parent homes, you have a hatred for your father. You have a disdain for anything masculine, anything that's more or less pertaining to masculinity, because you saw your father as the scourge of the earth. And what you've done is something we have in the clinical world called transference. You begin to transfer all your pain, hurt, and the trauma that your mom went through, and you more or less associated that with all men that look like your father. That's why we say this simps, especially the hyena simp, because he's a construct of matriarchal thinking, is the worst and the most dangerous man in the world. Because anything pertaining to masculinity, he's gonna always shut it down, because he's never had a father. He's never seen true masculinity. He's used to a family where the mothers rule and lead, and the husband just drag their knuckles and say, happy wife, happy life, and do what their wives say. They don't have any intestinal fortitude. The testosterone levels are low. And, you know, how can boys see anything about masculinity when they're dealing with women like that? So, guys, I'm going to drop the link. Was Shaq wrong in his attack? Okay. On Cam Newton. I would like for the ladies to come on too. If you can cam up, please cam up, guys. I want to see your face if you can. Because I want to hear you guys' comments before I head to the office, because I got to see some patients in a few minutes, and I would love to hear you guys' perspective. But I wanted to talk about this topic as it can be a segue on tomorrow. Modernized mania is more or less destroying the efficacy or the functioning of many modern relationships. Gonna say it again. Modernized mania, guys, just like there's a mania as relates to the clinical world, a person that's manic is all over the place. You know, they're not stable, they're not grounded. And modernized mania is destroying many men that want traditional relationship. Also, modernized mania is insulting traditional women that want a more perfect union as well. So once again, guys, if you're not donated, donate to Cash App $7 Smalls. Let's have a conversation, guys. The link has been dropped. Let's have a conversation. I would love to hear from you brothers. I would love to hear from you ladies about the malfeasance of what's his name? Shaquille Oneal. Was Shaquille Oneal on point? Was Shaquille Oneal right? Is Shaquille Oneal more or less positing thinking errors? Those thinking errors are more or less predicated on the minimization of masculinity and the magnification of the feminine. You got a lot of goofballs now going around saying, you know, she's the queen, she's the goddess, she's, the woman is God and all this goofy stuff. And once again, guys, when some of these women continue to denigrate our men, nothing is said. We don't hear anything to the contrary when those occurrences happen. But let a man say, or let a man have more or less proclaimed that, the black man is God, and everybody else is inferior. It would be an issue. So what do you guys think about it? I know some of you guys are at work, but let's have a conversation. Shout out to my man, Mandrell 211. How you doing, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfect, sir. So, Mandrell, how would you like to add to the conversation on this fiasco about Cam Newton and also Shaquille Oneal? In my earnest, truth, Mandrell, I believe that Shaq is more or less positing matriarchal thinking, which is a byproduct of hyena culture. But also, Mandrell, I think that Cam is positing, not Cam, but Shaq is positing simp-like behavior. Well, what's your take on it, Mandrell? What's your take on this whole fiasco, bro?
I'm still laughing at hyena culture. But when you look at it, I mean, that's what people seem to be asking for. Right. When you look at how hyenas they socialize and how they run their societies, that's what seems to be like people's asking for. But and you see how that turned out for them, the hyenas.
Right.
But anyway, I think he's just pandering. Honestly.
You think it's conscious pandering?
Yeah.
Or you think it's unconscious?
It's conscious pandering, man.
I don't think it's conscious, man. I think he's a
You think it's automatic now?
I think he's an unconscious simp. I think he's supplementing irrational male patterns. I don't even think he realizes what he's doing. But that's how he's been conditioned. He's been conditioned because, like I said, many of these men, Mandrell, have not been raised under masculine authority. They don't know what it looked like. And so anytime men say, this is what I want, this is what I demand, then, oh, your mom is black. Who hurt you? But your dad is black. Who hurt you? That's mental illness, Mandrell. Those are thinking errors that are prevalent in society, but not only in society in Westernized thought, it's very prevalent in the black community. Say, for one reason, give me a minute. Let me shout out to my man. I call him the Young Lion. Sir Hill speaks. $10 super sticker, and that is a deal right. Salute to Coach Clinician. Thank you, Sir Hill speaks, and I appreciate it, brother, guys. And we're gonna have a very powerful conversation on tomorrow, because in lieu of all of this, Mandrell, there's another thinking error where some men call their wives my partner, and I don't espouse the partner. I believe in husband and wife. Partners symbolizes or talks about or posits egalitarian relationships where they're both managers of the relationship. Like it's no Batman and Robin, it's Superman and Batman. They both can make leadership decisions, but when the man is the leader, he defers or delegates power to his woman, but by and large, he's the final broker in that relationship. But back to point. You're a young man. You appear to be a millennial or a zennial. And
I'm so not.
Oh, you're not?
I'm on the tail end, like the last crop of Gen X. I'm 43. Really? Yeah, I'm 43.
Oh, man, you don't look a day near 43. You look super good, man.
I know.
you got a baby face, man. You look young.
Right.
We want to put you as the new singer, the producer for Babyface. We're gonna put Mandrell on a record label called him Mandrell Face. You're gonna be the new record producer.
Yeah, the millennials, man. I think people wanted. It's hard to say because it's like, okay, you want women to have rights and everything like that. Mm-hmm. I'm cool with that, but as far as a woman acknowledging that a man is head of the household, like he's the CEO and she's vice president, something like that, captain and co-captain,
right?
It falls in two different ways. I see what people accept it and acknowledge it in two different ways. Like one is, okay, if you make enough money to where the woman doesn't have to work and she can rest in her femininity, then they're willing to submit to that. If you make just a little bit more than her, or not enough to where she doesn't have to work, where she has to work as well, you need her income too, then she's not willing to accept the man as head of household.
Well, she's wrong, because there's nowhere in scripture that says unless your husband makes enough money, then you honor and respect him. Watch this. The woman, Mandrell, in the gospel, there was a Proverbs 30 woman, she worked outside of the home. She still worked. But her mission was to serve her family and her husband. There are women in other countries, Mandrell, where the women work, but they still adhere to traditional norms and mores because the culture supports and endorses that. Imagine a man, Mandrell, saying that, because you're hard-headed and disobedient to my wife, I can't rest in my masculinity because this house is nasty. Well, hold on, Mandrell. I can't operate my masculinity because my bedroom is nasty, or you gain too much weight. I can't operate my masculinity. Do you see my point?
Yeah, it's silly. It's silly both ways.
It makes no sense, Mandrell. I can't operate my masculinity because you disrespected me. My masculinity is going to be conditional based on how you respond to a woman, but that's not how men operate. Mm-mm. There are men, Mandrell, that will put their lives on the lives for strangers because that's just who we are. We're this masculine by nature. So all this conditional femininity is mostly chameleon behavior, but also it's manipulation and it's deception. And so if she wants to be conditional, then you should be conditional, because Teddy Pendergrass said it better than me. He said, so good to love somebody and somebody to love you back. That's what Teddy said.
Yeah, but conditional masculinity, I don't even know what that is. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know what that is.
Right. Can you imagine a man saying, I can't rest in my masculinity because you didn't get in sex this morning. So when we go on the road and the car is broken down and the tire needs to be changed, I'm gonna let you change the tire because I can't rest in my masculinity. That man by default can change that tire because that's what most men do. The masculine is doing, the feminine is being. But there were women of the past that were feminine regardless of their situation. Look at Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer still respected and honored her husband. Fannie Lou Hamer still strived to be a feminine woman, even though she was under a lot of stress and pressure and oppressive Jim Crow racism. But Fannie Lou Hamer still said, I'm going to hold my man down. What's your take, Mandrell? You know, you're 43. Have you ever been married, brother?
No.
he said that bad. He said no.
No, not yet. It's just I honestly haven't had the time. I was after I graduated college, I joined the Army and got into the Special Forces, and we were gone all the time. And there are other guys who got married also, but I didn't know a single person who hadn't been divorced at minimum 3 times.
Oh,
so I was
wow.
like, so I was like, well, what's the point?
What's the point?
You know what I mean? Yeah. So what's the point?
Right.
I'm just gonna get divorced. I mean, you know. So after that, I got an amazing opportunity as far as the job goes, working for DOD, and then, you know, years drop off the calendar, and now I'm here. I'm like, okay. So I decided, I noticed that I need to take care of a few things, you know, mental health, stuff like that, because it was nonstop.
Right.
From the time I joined to the time, you know, to like a couple of years ago, right before COVID hit. And I was like, okay, listen, here's my 2-week notice. I looked at my finances and I was like, oh, I'm fine. Because I was worried about that. I'm like, yeah, I need to take some time off or something. I looked at my finances and I was like, oh, I'm fine. Nothing to worry about here. So I just handed in my notice. I gave them a 4-week notice. They tried the whole time to get me to stay. I was like, now look, I got things to take care of. And so for the first time, I was able to sit still.
Right.
And, you know, and take a good look at myself, life in general. And I get to YouTube and I'm like, what is all this? You know what I mean? You have a bunch of guys screaming about women aren't this, women aren't that, and women screaming about men aren't this, men aren't that. I'm like, y'all doing it wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Hold tight, man. Let me shout out this $30, $20.
Yeah, no problem.
It's a deal, right? Shout out to Pop Onaya Shelley for that $20 super sticker. And it is a deal, right? Thank you, sir. I think I don't know, but I appreciate it. LTR, do me a favor, brother. I'll bring you up, but I just need you to. Well, actually, I know you, LTR. I call you Love Together in Devotion, so I know you. All right. So once again, man, you're beginning to see it. When you see this very scattered brain, this very segmented mindset that you're beginning to see in so many Western men and women, what do you think about the survival of our people and survival, but not only survival of our people, survival of the West, if this kind of nebulous and also very erratic thinking continues to fester? What's your take on that?
Well, when it comes to our people, we're doomed. But when it comes to the West as a whole, it'll bounce back. Not us, though. I mean, it might take a while, but our days are numbered, dude. Hey,
I think it's number 2, man. I agree with you. People get mad at me when I say it, and I'm not against trying to protect and preserve the remnant that's left. But I've always asked people in the past, Mandrell, and I'm going to try to stay the topic about Shaq. But what percentage of women do you feel are wife worthy and wife ready in your opinion?
Wife worthy? Ooh.
Right.
Well, I say about 49%.
In America?
In America. Here's the thing.
Wife worthy and ready.
Well, here's the thing. Ready, that's a different question. But you have a lot of women out there who, like, you hear guys on this platform, like, you know, Lapeef and like Men Unfiltered, Sir Hill Speaks. You have a lot of women out there who just never heard men talk like this. Take yourself, for instance.
Right.
Tons of women never heard a man in their life speak the way you do. So they're unaware. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of them who can learn and they want to be wise. You know, they just need to be coached.
Like Sir Hill Speaks said, I'll be masculine for the right woman.
No, I'm not. There's no such thing as that.
But he's being funny.
Yeah,
he's being funny.
But he has a point.
Right. He's being funny. And a man supporting men said 49%. He said that's the highest number I heard on here.
It's a loud minority. I think it's the loudest voices are the minority. Oh no, I'm sorry, slight majority. 51%. They're the ones screaming and yelling, men ain't this, men ain't that. I'm just like, okay, what are you doing to help their relationship? I shouldn't have to do anything. He's supposed to do this. Well, you got to do things too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, then it should be 50-50. No, it is not 50-50.
Well, they want 50-50 when it's beneficial.
Right.
They want 50-50 when it's beneficial to them. But they don't want 50-50. Like I always tell people, a lot of modern women want equality of opportunity, but they don't want equality of outcome. And,
Right.
and that's the succinct difference. Now you're well traveled. You special forces, you're in the military. When you travel abroad, man, what's the biggest difference you see in Western women versus women abroad? What's the biggest difference you see?
I mean, they're not without their issues, to be sure.
Right, but they're not perfect, right?
But
culture,
the culture, their women really do take care of the things their husband need them to take care of, so their man can go out there and take on the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I tell women here, I'm like, see, I have to die for you. All you got to do is listen to me. That's why it's not 50-50.
And love together in devotion, man. I'm gonna meet you, man, until I bring you on, man. I don't know what you got. You got a lot going on back there. Turn that TV down for me, please, sir. But I'm gonna bring you on in a minute.
Yeah,
go ahead, man.
It really is. So I've seen this whole, I've seen it work from people of other cultures. These are people who live in mud huts,
right?
Dirt poor, okay,
right.
And their women are still submissive.
Mm-hmm.
Money had nothing to do with it. It's just the woman's doing her duty as a wife, and the man, he's out there either herding sheep or trying to sell vegetables or whatever the case may be, not bringing in any money for real at all. You know what I'm saying? They're barely able to survive, but the woman is still submissive and the man is still head of household.
Right.
And they have nothing. Again, they live in literal mud huts.
Right.
They sleep on a carpet on the floor.
Right.
You know what I mean? So here we are in America, in the most one of the most luxurious and comfortable countries on the planet. And no, nothing.
And it's unfortunate, Mandra, because so many men defer, disallow anything. That's why I was saying there are women in other countries that are poor. And I think that the things that women are complaining about in America is a first world issue. And third world countries, they don't have time for that. They have to work with their men. They have no other choice because their struggle is different. But a lot of the women from those countries, some may not like and some don't care because they see it as duty. They still cook. They still walk miles in the village to get water for their family because they value their family. And they value the integrity of family. Those women come into relationships understanding service to their men and family. And sometimes those men have multiple wives, but here in America, anything, if you cook a man a meal, you're a slave. I never understood that goofiness, man. Cooking a man a meal is a slave. Fixing your house is a slave. Fixing a plate makes you a slave.
I believe it's because in America we kind of conditioned to worship money, right? And we mistake someone being dominant, you understand what I'm saying, for masculinity. You understand what I'm saying?
Right,
so there's a lot of people who, because they have a lot of money, they're afforded certain privileges that would normally be reserved to a masculine man. But but just because they have money, don't necessarily make them, traditionally masculine. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
right.
So that has confused a lot of people, in my opinion. That has confused a lot of people, right? So like when we go back to the basics, you realize that masculinity has nothing to do with the woman. The woman ain't got nothing to say about what masculinity is. That's something that men decide away from the women in the locker room or on the football field or in things that pertain only to men, right? And then like through this progression, you understand what I'm saying? You have your alphas basically dominate their way through the the rites of passage or whatever you want to call it. You understand what I'm saying? You kind of dominate your way through the rites of passage by proving your dominance to other men. You understand what I'm saying? But the process is masculinity. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so, I get confused when I hear men say, "Oh, she's a masculine woman." A woman cannot, you know what I mean? Like if you look at the definition of what masculinity is, it's characteristics that pertain to being male. You understand what I'm saying? Can a woman be handsome? No, she ain't. You know what I mean? Can a woman
Yeah,
be?
yeah, I understand what you're saying. What they're saying, just like there's a such thing as an effeminate man. That's like saying, but there's no such thing as a feminine man. It is, because the gospel talks about
Yeah, go to
effeminate men.
Atlanta or San
Right,
Francisco.
right.
You'll see it.
So what they're trying to say, does she have the physical characteristics? No, but does she have the demeanor of masculinity, being aggressive? That's what they're trying to say.
I think it's dominant. I think women can be dominant and not necessarily masculine.
Right,
women
right.
Can be so she's pretending to be something that she's not. Because if she get put in like those certain situations with a man, like had to survive in man camp, she couldn't. And we've seen it over and over.
Right,
she's not masculine.
Yeah. Because this thing is, that's why women aren't really allowed to make it go into combat arms. Like in special forces selection, there's a selection process, right?
Exactly.
Before you go and get trained to be SF, right? Selection process at the time was 2 weeks, right? There's no way a woman's going to make it through that.
Exactly my point. There are certain things that pertain only specifically to you have to have the characteristics of being a man, and you put her to the test. She will not be able to survive that.
No way.
No freaking way.
I mean, you might have one or two of them. I mean, but that's one or two out of how like millions. But there's no way, really. No way.
But if she survives, it's like at the bottom of the sticky bottom of the barrel. She just got her ass whooped, and she gotta live through the process.
Yeah, seriously.
You understand what I'm saying?
And then the training is 2 years.
But
the training alone is 2 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, there's no way you make it through that. Stop.
But it's the spirit of it, and the spirit of it's like that's like saying, if you look at somebody say, well, I'll give an example. Jesus called fox a Herod a fox. Well, we know Herod is not a true fox based on characteristics, but he had the spirit and the nature of a fox. So a lot of times when people say she's being masculine in her energy, we know she can't do all the things associated with being a man, but she does have some of those characteristics. The masculine is doing, therefore the masculine can be very aggressive. Most men are aggressive by nature, but the feminine is more soft in being. There are some men that are soft and effeminate as well. So we can get caught up into semantics. I understand what you're saying. Love together. I call you love together and devotion. I understand.
I mean, but look at Bruce Jenner, right?
Right.
He's a joke. He's a joke. You can't. He was Moment of the Year, but to every man, it's like
man was a decathlete on the Wheaties box.
That's a joke. Like
man was a decathlete on the Wheaties box.
There's no way you can convince. There's no way you can convince a man that dude. So I mean, like that's not a woman. That's a man. That's a man masquerading, pretending to be a woman. That's not feminine. That's not feminine energy. That he's faking it.
So, Coach Clinician, I have a question for you. All right.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, brother.
All right. Because I've had much experience over the past few years of people of your profession, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what caused this? Because largely why I'm on YouTube is because I'm trying to understand people.
Right.
I don't get them. I don't understand. You know what I mean? It's confusing. Like, what is this? Like, why society seem hell bent on feminizing men when you know that you need men to be masculine?
Right.
You know that you need masculine men, right? What's with this feminization of men that's going on in society today, and everyone thinks it's okay? Like, take Dwayne Wade, for instance. You know what I'm saying? And what's going on in his situation? I don't get that. Look at Shaq. Again, I think he's pandering to women. You know what I mean? Why? I don't know. Maybe to get brownie points for whatever reason.
No, I think it's a combination of, like I said earlier, Shaq is unconscious. I think it's probably both. I think he is pandering, but I think also it's part of his
100% pandering.
Right. I think it's a byproduct of his conditioning not to see power in masculinity and see men power in relationship. If you've seen Shaq's mom, she's a big woman. She's a big, dominant looking woman, and he never saw his real father as a kid growing up. He only met his father years later, but he was a byproduct of a stepfather. And back then, being a stepfather was a noble thing, but not in this generation. So back to your point, I think a lot of it is on the spiritual level. It would take me a whole show to talk about it from a spiritual point of view. But in the esoteric, I think it's all tied to what most theologians call the spirit of the Antichrist. But that's another story. That's another show. It would take too long for me to explain. But on the social level, also from a spiritual level, it's always been the sin nature of men and women. You know, it's just a broken. She wants to have power. The gospel says she will have a desire for her husband, but he will guide her or rule over her because she want to be the leader in the relationship. It's part of what's called original sin. But also, I think it's something more nefarious. I think it's by design to minimize the power of the man in the relationship and to usher in what some theologians call a one world government. But it won't make sense to you from this show, man. It's too, how can I say, it's too
no, it's nothing I haven't heard before.
Right,
And
right.
The thing is, I've heard this kind of thing come from the mouths of people with real power.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Real power and real influence that you never heard of and you never will hear of.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I've heard this kind of stuff come from their mouths. I'm like, oh, okay. And when I was a child, my granddad used to talk about a one world government and new world order and all that stuff.
Right. And you know, and there have been books. There's a book I'll tell you about in private, but there are books written on it. There are oligarchs that talk about it. Warren Buffett. There are big oligarchs that talk about it. So it's all by design. It's all by design. Sadly, some of our women, or a large majority of our women, have been hoodwinked. It's all to destroy the image of the family. Because see, the image of the family is the image of God. So therefore, it's an anti-God agenda, and it's designed to more or less usurp the power from the man, to make men feel powerless and to make the woman feel great. And the age-old lie that the man oppressed them, no different than John Newton's Paradise Lost. In Paradise Lost, guess what happened? Lucifer was seen as the innocent one, and God was seen as the bad person. And so that's what they do to masculinity. Anything that's synonymous to order, power, and structure is always met under scrutiny and also always met under negativity. But a righteous father, not an abusive father, a righteous father gives guidance. A righteous father gives provision. And a man is more than just the sum of his money. That's why we have to be careful saying that the essence of a man is based on him making a certain amount of money. It's not, because high value or what I call high earning does not necessarily make you high value. There are characteristics associated with money that put you in that bracket, but your value is not always tied to money. No different than a woman's body is tied to her being a high value woman. Imagine we said she's not a high value woman unless she's curvy, she got wide hips and a small waist and big bust.
And this is the stuff we put into women's heads.
Right.
This is the stuff we put into the women's heads and cause this distortion that you call
I back you on that one. You know, I was thinking to myself while you're talking, I was like, I wish you could get us sisters to understand that. You know, women for some reason, like, they're looking for you to already have the money. You know what I'm saying? They're looking for you to already have the money, not just the money.
You're a finished product. They
want
a finished product, but
3 cars, all on your own. You know,
they get everything they want. They feel like they get everything they want 100% of the time. They want a finished product without having to earn or compete for anything.
Right.
You understand? And we enable them to be that way.
I agree. I agree.
And this is what, like, they meet guys like me and they're confused. Like, I'm a guy I've made a pretty decent amount of money in myself, but I don't live like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I have a 2-bedroom apartment. It's a nice place. Don't get me wrong. It's a mortgage that I pay in rent, but they don't know that. You know what I'm saying? So when they see me and it's, oh, he just has an apartment, he doesn't have a house. I'm like, not as if I can't go out and get one.
Right. Your value is always tied to your ability to make money, but they don't see your intrinsic worth as a man, like your kindness, your ability to give provision. Provision is more than just money. Provision is insight and wisdom. But they don't see that because many of our young women have not been raised to value men or value masculinity compared to women from other countries, like where Lucchese is from, where Sweet Lulu Bean is from.
Lucchese, she's from where? Venezuela?
Venezuela, right.
I almost married a Venezuelan woman.
Right.
Almost.
What happened?
She was a princess. And
okay.
She was a princess, yeah. And I just kind of I was like, oh my God.
Right.
You kind of get over it. The pretty, gorgeous woman.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, absolutely drop dead gorgeous.
Right.
But that only goes so far, man. You know what I'm saying? It only goes so far.
Yeah, you're right. It only goes but so far. I agree with you. A million percent. But I'm gonna ask you guys a question because I got to go in a minute. But because we always talk about solution, guys, and you know, LTR over here, he talking about he up here thinking about love together, devotion, man. But we're gonna talk about solutions because he's just thinking about love together and devotion. But this is the part of the show, guys, before we signed off, where we find solutions. So this is the part of the show where we find solutions. All right, what are the solutions, man, going forward, man? What are the solutions? Because I agree with you, Mandrell, and also LTR. I agree with you, man. I think that there's a remnant that can be protected and a remnant that can be pushed forward. But by and large, I think it's done. I think it's going to take generations for it to be recycled. It got to go. It got to be like a thing. It's got to be burnt in the ashes, and it got to come up whole again. But I think it's done. But what are the solutions moving forward? I would say my solutions are similar to what you said, Mandrell. Do not reward bad behavior. Do not enable bad behavior, call out bad behavior, check bad behavior, protect good women or protect women that are ready and fit for your mission. But besides that, do not participate in the shenanigans of many of these modern women. That's part of the solution. But what's your take, Mandrell, and then LTR?
Absolutely. You have to teach women and get them to understand that, listen, the only way you're going to make it through any kind of relationship, period, marriage or not, is together. And it's always better, get them to understand that it's always better to help that man build his empire than to come along after he's already built it by himself. Because then he has the mind that he doesn't need you. And you're there as a utility and nothing more. You know, and that's something that women seem to not understand. They don't know how to work with a man. So that's my solution. You have to teach women how to work with a man and how to recognize a good man when they see one. You know, that's two things for me. It comes down to education, bottom line. The ones who are already lost, they're going to be lost. There's no saving them. And this will not change. So you have to save the ones you can.
Right. LTR, love together and devotion. What are the solutions, man?
I think the solution is we got to get back to the basics, to the fundamentals, right? Of men, rocking with men and basically training these younger generations into being, masculine men, because society wants to give us this watered down version of Ahab and wants us to be that, allow women to do whatever it is they want to do.
Agree. You're right.
And go along just to get along, to be, you know what I mean? Like, not even to have sanity in your own home, but to allow this woman to do whatever it is she wants to do. And you just be quiet and just, uphold a financial responsibility, but you have no say so with the children. You have no say so with the things that go on in your house and so on and so forth. And this woman just rule you at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So we need to get back to the basic fundamentals of, basically reestablishing what masculinity is, because it ain't this Bruce Jenner shit that, you know what I mean, that they want to sell to us. You know what I'm saying? It ain't this. It ain't this other shit, that this Western philosophy that they're imposing on us with through media about, like, being so, I don't know, accepting of things that we know are taboo and toxic to, you know what I mean, the identity of what. Because if you look at Bruce Jenner, he would be something that you would call, in his sports days, something that you might refer to as an alpha male. You understand what I'm saying? He was a dominant male in his freaking sport. You understand what I'm saying? He went around the world and beat many other men who were, competing to do the same thing. But then they feminized, you know what I mean? They you know what I'm saying? Like, you took that and feminized it. Like, come on, that's a big, you know what I mean? That's a big problem. That's a big problem.
Let me ask you a question, LTR. Are you married, man, or have you ever been married?
I've been married, yep.
Oh, have been married, right? Wow. So tell me what happened in your relationship, man. What happened?
What happened in my relationship?
Yeah, briefly. I gotta go in less than 2 minutes.
Okay, I can give you a brief synopsis. Me just not being controllable. You understand what I'm saying? Certain things are unacceptable that I see in, as far as that I'm not willing to accept from how society wants you to behave. You understand what I'm saying? Versus how a woman is reinforced, she kind of reinforced those ideas in your home. And it's just like, we just don't see eye to eye. So basically, I'm gonna do my own thing as a man. Mm-hmm. And when you feel like you decide that this is not what you want, mm-hmm. more power to you. You go handle that and get that taken care of. So pretty much that's how it went. We went our own separate ways because of unreconcilable differences. Because mm-hmm. her mentality is based on how women want to dominate the house and want you to have very little say so.
Right.
And I just can't rock with somebody that, you know what I mean? I can't rock with a woman that has those kind of personality traits.
No way.
No, I agree with you, man, 1,000%, man. And it's more often than less that you see these types of negative behaviors where they, on a subtle level, will try your manhood, they try your masculinity. They will try to emasculate you by manipulating you, or they'll make little slick comments. And when you see that bad behavior, you got to check that ish right away and let her damn know that she ain't gonna get away with it. And you got to call out on her BS, because I think a lot of guys, man, fell for the love, for the whole concept of love. True to form, just like LTD, Love Together Devotion. Much more. What's that song? Never been. a lot of us guys were singing that song by Love Together Devotion. I've never been so much in love. Much more than they could see. We all fell for the fairy tale of love, but when you open your eyes up and realize it's just an illusion, it caused a lot of men to have a break. But you just see, as I'm older, I just see it for what it is. I don't care about no damn love. What I care about is honor and respect, and you obey my manhood Facts. And what I expect from my family. And if you can do that, then that's love for me. But all this other goofy stuff about the feelings of love, I don't give a shit about no feelings of love. I care about how you honor and respect me as a man. If a woman, you'll know a woman truly love you when she more or less, how can I say it, strives to honor and respect you as her husband. That's when you know she really loves you. She's always striving to honor and respect you because she's going against her feelings. So that's when you'll know that she loves you. But this modern notion of love,
they don't need to do that. They feel like they don't need to do that.
Right. They don't feel like they need to do it. Right. They just feel like just because, you're supposed to fall in line and do whatever. And what men are saying now, they're saying enough is enough, man. Men are saying enough is enough, and men are saying they're going to do what's best for them. And it's unfortunate, man, because so many men tried to warn some of these women in this last election about what was happening, but many didn't listen. And we're beginning to see the ravages of what I call culture Marxism in this country, and it's getting worse and worse. What's your take on that, real quick, man, Drake? In less than 2 minutes, I gotta let you off.
Gotcha.
And about 1 minute.
You're absolutely right on that. I mean, we all fell for the illusion of love. I have, you know what I mean, until I woke up. When she found out how much money I was sitting on, that's when the princess came out and she needed this, needed that,
Right.
So like that experience snapped me out of it. I was like, got it. That's what it is. So yeah, absolutely. We men have to teach our boys and young men to express your love by doing, being masculine, taking control, understanding what control actually is, leading is versus being controlling. You want to lead, you don't want to be controlling. And women understand what submissiveness is and understand what the difference between being submissive and being a slave is. They got everybody's got it all confused.
But listen, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna challenge this a little bit, but because I think you're on the right track. But all control is not bad. People always equivocate righteous control with bad control, Mandrell. Control is needed in a relationship. In science, we use what's called control groups. So we got control groups in relationships, and we got control in military phalanxes and regiments. Yes, how much more control do you need in a relationship? But we always equivocate control is bad. All control is not bad. You ever heard your grandmom say, listen, you need to go control your child. If your woman is going out, blowing your money and dressing very provocative, a masculine man said, listen, I need to control that. But see, she'll try to shame you and say, oh, you're insecure, or, and you're controlling. Don't argue with her. You just tell her what you damn expect. If she keep doing it, you start coming up with an exit strategy and you get rid of her. You just damn get rid of her if she don't adhere to your expectations. Control is necessary in order to run a family. You don't think James Evans have control of his family?
He did.
You know, the old gospel choirs back in the day used to say by Hezekiah Walker, God is in control. You remember the gospel choirs back in the day?
Yeah.
God is in control. So my whole point is, if God can be in control, if in science, if they have control groups, how much more should a man have control in his family or his woman? We're not talking about abuse control, like locking up in the room, she can't speak.
Yeah, that nonsense.
That's abuse of control. We're not talking about that. But we're saying this basic good control, like you're not going out if you're my woman dressed and very provocative with your breast out and secret. You're not doing that if you're my woman. That's the control you got to have. Or your kids acting like fools and bouncing around and coming in when they want to come in. If you let the inmates run the asylum, they're going to take over, man. And so many of our men have been conditioned because we're not critical thinkers to think anything that's tied to masculinity is bad. You got different parenting types. You got authoritative, authoritarian, and you got passive aggressive. Every parent should strive to be authoritative with their parenting. But anyway, guys, I got to go. I got to get to the office by 2 o'clock. I'm going to be running late. Mandrell, this has been a good little short show. I just want to talk about this Shaq fiasco. Guys, join me tomorrow at 8 o'clock where we're going to be talking about wife or partner. And, you know, hopefully I'll see my man, Edward Anderson, good brother. We're going to be talking about that. And, you know, some men, you know, I'm not here to push the whole thing, institution of marriage in these traditional times, because I think it's hard for young men to get quality women in these traditional times. But for the sake of those that want it, and so be it. But I'm just talking about the whole concept between saying the word partner versus wife, because you're not my partner, you're my wife. Partner and wife is two different things, and we're gonna talk about that on tomorrow, man. But anyway, guys, I appreciate it. Thank you, LTR and Mandrell.
Thank you for having me.
And yes, sir, brother. And pop in tomorrow, guys. We're gonna have another powerful show tomorrow, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. All right, about to sign off. All right, so guys, let me run this quick commercial, guys, on mental health, and we're signing off because your mental health matters, and we're signing off. Are you a victim of brokenness and despair? A broken man is a hopeless man. And a hopeless man is a very dangerous man. Many times, many of you young men that are listening come from homes that are very toxic and very dysfunctional. And because of that, many of you have deferred your power in many ways to the point it's led over into your social life and many times led over into your relationships. If you guys are dealing with mental health pathologies, conscious and unconscious, come see me at kosherclinician@gmail.com. That's kosherclinician@gmail.com. It's important that you deal with your mental health in order to be a better person for yourself, your loved ones, and also your community. But because mental health is often stigmatized, many of you often suffer in silence. Don't be a victim in silence. And see me once again at kosherclinician@gmail.com. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male. And male mental health is one of those elements that's paramount to the functioning of a man. Be well.
In the morning, you got me up, all cause you need to talk. To 4 in the evening, wanna break up, say that you've had enough. I'm tired of talking, again and again, argue about everything. You are my darling, this kiss and make up, I know you wanna touch. You call me every night, call me every day, I just wanna get you alone now. Trust me when I say